The subject of time travel has appeared in a number of the X-Men comic books, particularly in Days of Future Past.
3, 2, 1, action.
This film has captured one of the essences of the comics, which I think appeals to people, that you can dip in and out of these stories and see old Magneto and young Magneto.
It's a great privilege and honor to be allowed to try and fill his sort of younger shoes, as it were, in this role.
You really think this will work? We were young. We didn't know any better. We will now.
It meant a lot to me to be able to assemble the original cast. I know that because of Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, we were able to get James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. I think it meant a lot, not only to me, but to our newer cast also.
When you're dealing with traveling through time, changing history, it gives you the opportunity to take characters in new directions.
Charles the Elder has lived longer, he has refined and developed these powers.
Even though those two Charles Xaviers are at incredibly different times in their life, you still see the seed of those interesting, exceptional people existing in one space.
Charles.
Charles.
Alles ist gut.
X-Men First Class was the origin story of Magneto. The beginning of the movie is a kid in a concentration camp, and the end of the movie is him saying,
I prefer Magneto. We crossed the line at the end of First Class. We see again by the end of this film that element of a megalomaniac. Singular sort of thought and action.
We are the future. We are the ones who will inherit this earth. And anyone who stands in our way will suffer the same fate as these men you see before you.
He's definitely so much more of a loner in this.
Eric?
He's very close to Mystique. He has very strong feelings for her.
What are you doing?
Securing our future. It's clear for him. It's the solution for the problem.
The Magneto that you see with me is a man with a conscience and a man with an unhappy life behind him. Has come through, I think, a great deal and isn't taking on single-handed or even with the help of his brotherhood, society as a whole.
Don't get in my way.
We are the future, Charles, not them. They no longer matter.
He's joined up again with his old friend, Professor X, together. They're going to try and move things forward.
I spent a lot of time with Ian sort of through the power of the internet, but he's great. He's a class act. He's an amazing actor.
Take a pause, everyone.
For this film, I've been sort of studying more his voice than I did on the first one, sort of incorporating that a little bit more.
Good to see you too, old friend. And walking.
I hope it doesn't seem a little bit weird from the last one.
Cut.
But 10 years have passed, and I believe Magneto was doing elocution lessons by himself in solitary confinement. People love Magneto because he's Magneto. At moments you see there's actually a lot of emotional depth. As we saw in the last one, there's a lot of damage. But for the most part, those moments then become more powerful if you don't dwell on them too much.
And gimbal is moving to level.
You abandoned me! You took her away and you abandoned me! Angel. Azazel. Emma. Banshee. Mutant brothers and sisters, all dead. Where were you when your own people needed you? Hiding! Pretending to be something you're not.
Eric!
You abandoned us all.
Eric challenged his worldview so much and then violently took away him not just the ability to walk, but also his belief in other people a little bit.
All right, guys, pictures up. Here we go. Ready? Here we go.
when we started talking about what Days of Future Past would be emotionally, one of the first things we started talking about was, what would Charles really be like after he lost his legs, lost the girl that he considered a sister and the only family member he really knew, and lost his best friend?
That's it, we're done. Whoop!
Top marks. Like I said, you are perceptive.
Professor I know would never turn his back on someone who lost their path.
Xavier's in a really bad place emotionally. The pain of losing Raven and the pain of losing Eric, coupled with all these voices and all the suffering, made him realize that he didn't want to be a psychic anymore. He didn't want the power. He didn't want the responsibility.
We came to you a long time ago seeking your help. And I'm going to say to you what you said to us then. Fuck off.
He's left more than just physically crippled. He is emotionally unable to deal with what happened to him.
There is indeed a line when I'm advising Logan about what he is going to encounter. He says, can't you just read his mind? And I say, no, because
I didn't have my powers in 1973. Logan, you're going to have to do for me what I once did for you.
It's been almost 15 years, hasn't it? Living from day to day, moving from place to place, with no memory of who or what you are.
Shut up.
Give me a chance. I may be able to help you find some answers.
The idea was to make him very different from how we've seen him before, as portrayed by Patrick. So I went glib, caddish, drinking and womanizing, and basically not taking things seriously.
Norman, pint of bitter for me and a brandy for the lady, please.
How did you know that?
Lucky guess. Name's Xavier. Charles Xavier.
The idea was always, if he's going to become that Patrick Stewart figure...
And the next time you feel like showing off, don't.
We don't deserve to make him like Patrick Stewart yet. We have to earn the right to become like Patrick Stewart.
We shot the entire future segment of the film first. So for the first month, it was the traditional cast, and then they were done. We had one scene with James and Patrick, and it was the first time they'd ever worked together. So an incredible moment. It's one of my favorite scenes in the film.
There is something about the idea of seeing your future self that I think is, on a human level, very compelling.
That's Patrick Stewart. That's Patrick Stewart. Starship Enterprise.
When I got the part 3 years ago, something like that, it got into the news or whatever, and my friend, who I used to watch X-Men with, called me up. I was a huge Star Trek fan as well, and the way you portrayed Jean-Luc Picard was amazing. So anyway, my friend Mark phones me up and goes like, hey, I hear you're going to be playing Patrick Stewart. He didn't say Charles Xavier, he didn't say Professor X, he said, I hear you're going to be playing Patrick Stewart, and he was so excited. So yeah, I'm a very lucky boy.
I've been around science fiction quite a bit, you know, and stuff like this happens. It's not uncommon. But today is my most interesting scene in the movie. Very appropriate. It came on what is my last day's work.
My first, I know. I was quite scared about that, to tell you the truth. Not only is it a really important scene that basically represents the apex of my character's arc, but this was a proper scene with the custodian of this character of 14 years.
Charles.
Charles.
That scene between Charles and Charles is the hinge in the movie where James McAvoy goes from someone who's hopeless and broken to someone who's starting to piece himself back together.
Charles, we need you to hope again.
Coming up with the idea, which I think was yours, that we should be almost nose to nose for the entire scene, instead of shooting it over a distance, which would have perhaps been the conventional way to do it, that we were literally in one another's faces. We've met a couple of times, but we've never worked together before, and suddenly you're eyeball to eyeball with a fellow actor for 6 hours, and it's a strange living, isn't it?
It is a strange old living, but it just seemed like, we've travelled through dimensions and time and realities and consciousnesses so that we can be in this room together and have this conversation. And it just felt like, yeah, we should be close. Because basically someone giving themselves a good talking to, really. But just represented with two characters.
You can become more powerful than you ever imagined.
At its core, it was a character confronting his older self, who now has all the wisdom of the future.
So this is what becomes of us. Eric was right. Humanity does this to us.
Not if we show them a better path.
He only has a moment that he can bestow that wisdom upon his younger self that is in such crisis. But sometimes a moment is all that it takes.
You still believe? Just because someone stumbles, loses their way, it doesn't mean they're lost forever. Sometimes we all need a little help.
He cannot be like the Charles Xavier that we've seen before, and I cannot mimic Patrick's performance. He's got to be different. Otherwise, why do an origin story if you're not showing how they became?
So much pain. It's not their pain you're afraid of. It's yours, Charles.
If we do a third movie, if we make more than £2.50 on this one, and they let us make a third movie, I mean, I'll pretty much be watching all your movies and copying everything you do, because the idea is that we do start so wildly different in First Class. We do remain so wildly different in this one. That is exciting, that's good, but that's only valid if we're taking you truthfully towards where we know he's always going to go, which is Sir Patrick Stewart.
Oh, I'm not the man I was.
It's beautiful, the way that they talk to each other. They were very excited about these two actors to get to know each other and to be able to play off each other. It did mean a lot to me, and it meant a lot to them, too.
Step very gently out.
Find what you were looking for.
Power's back on.
Yes. Yes, it is.
You'll need to go into the past
to end this war before it ever begins.
It really all started back with X-Men First Class and the idea of going back to the origins of Xavier and Magneto as characters.
We want the same thing.
My friend. I'm sorry. But we do not.
And from there, a desire was to try to find
Fast start, take 3A mark.
I found them.
You know, I was not surprised when I got the call. I was not surprised because I've been very aware of the ongoing success of the franchise.
It's building a moment to be like, we're done with the concept of everyone we're joining, we're done with the greetings, now we're suddenly...
Because of that and because of the popularity of the original X-Men and the role that Professor Xavier plays in the whole ethos of X-Men. It always seemed to me there was a perfectly good argument to bring him back.
It was a delight, and I suppose it was Bryan Singer, the director of the first two films, who wanted to gather a little nostalgia together and go back to his roots with the films, so I was very pleased.
What I think Bryan and Simon have done so well is create a new set of challenges for characters we know and love, seeing them in different states of being. They've done a brilliant job in the storytelling of taking us deeper into the world, but more importantly, deeper into those characters.
So I wake up in my younger body, God knows where. Then what?
You'll need to go to my house and find me. Convince me of all of this.
What I'm always looking for as an actor is something new to play, some fresh material, some fresh area for Wolverine. And in this movie, I get to play an entirely different version of the character, different circumstances and different things required from him, and that's exciting. So, I mean, trust me, this was one of those no-brainers.
It's really good to be Storm again. She is one of those characters that I personally have loved over the years. It's sort of like a familiar friend, you know, someone that I've missed for a while, and it's good to put the white hair back on, if you can believe that.
You know, this movie, for my career, was just such a big break. It was just an opportunity to be in front of a lot of people, playing an iconic character, working with incredible actors and incredible filmmakers. So that was exciting in itself. And now that this series has continued to grow and I've continued to be a part of it, it's exciting because every film I get to come back and I've grown as an actor, I've grown as a person, and I get to bring that to the character.
Bryan was really the guy who helped really start my career. And to kind of come back full circle, it's funny to be on set and it just feels very similar to X-Men 2, but then jump forward 10 years. So it's this kind of weird, surreal place, but exciting at the same time.
You'll need me as well.
What?
It does feel like coming home, and I think people working on these films appreciate the work and want to work and like the job and know it's high class. But there's a purpose behind it, which is this is a story worth telling. And these particular people want to come back to help retell it.
One of the things that Bryan did so well from the beginning of the X-Men movies was cast great, real, dramatic actors. From Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart on down, and it's true for Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, Jen Lawrence, Nick Holt, this next generation. But what was a bit of the unknown was what it would feel like to combine the energies of these two casts.
Holy shit. What?
For me, after the first 6 weeks, it became a different movie, where I was working with Fassbender, McAvoy, Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, all these great young actors. They brought with them an atmosphere that, in a way, for Bryan and I, was new.
The great thing about working with Hugh is that he's so in the moment, he's so committed to the character as well, which I have to say I found incredible. Since, you know, 7 movies in, playing Wolverine for the 7th time, over 13 years, and he's still in the moment, caring about the character, caring about the story.
Where did they dig you up?
You're gonna find this hard to believe, but
X-Men First Class, it wasn't until they walked onto the blue hallway standing next to Hugh Jackman in full Wolverine makeup that guys like Nick Holt or James McAvoy said to me, wow, now I feel like I'm really in an X-Men movie. This is a trip.
Action!
It's been a lot of fun, and it's nice to sort of be able to give whatever you can to that sort of passionate fan base. There's the responsibility to these guys to sort of bring something fresh or something new.
I don't know if it's a coincidence or it's love of the underlying material, but it's an incredibly kind, generous cast that feels like two different families that came together as one.
I feel grateful to be involved. It's so ambitious and epic in scope, and I'm thrilled when I walk into work and I'm working with incredible actors and gorgeous costumes on amazing sets. I get excited to see it.
These films are so much fun to make. We have such a great time. The quality of the people, everyone involved in the making them, is so outstanding. I could only hope that we produce sequel after sequel.
It's good to see you, Charles. It's good to see everyone.
Of course, there's a nostalgic reason to come back and do it, but that's not going to get everybody across the line. I mean, if we want to get together, we can have a barbecue together any Sunday, but to come and work on something, there's no point unless it's going to be the best of them all. And I really firmly believe this is not just the biggest and biggest cast, but this is the best of them all.
Every time you start making an X-Men movie,
Get off the bloody chandelier.
you know you're going to use certain mutants that have been used before. But then you have to decide which new mutants you're going to use.
One of my mandates on this movie was to spread it out ethnically more to reflect our audience. We want different powers than we've already seen.
What do you guys want? I didn't do anything.
Characters that look different than we've already seen.
Each character, new or familiar, is an opportunity to do something different.
Thank you.
I just try to find the mutants whose powers are not only interesting, both visually and conceptually, but also that serve the story, that will work together with other mutants and their powers.
If they did something cool enough that you could put it in the film, they stayed. And if you couldn't come up with something cool enough for them to do, then we'd change them out for another mutant.
So it's a real dance. In the post-apocalyptic future, mutants are on the run. They're all soldiers of a sort.
They're not really X-Men anymore.
Sentinels!
They're a group of mutants that have band together because there's just no other option. The Sentinels have taken over and they're destroying everything.
Bishop, played by Omar Sy, is an interesting character. He channels power from anything into his body and then redistributes it through a gun that's attached to his arm.
Let's go!
He uses the power from his fellow mutants to actually power him up. You see that energy sort of moving up through his face and charging up his body, and his eyes sort of glow a little bit brighter, and then you see that transfer into his gun, and that's him sort of charged up, ready for action.
He's branded with a M on his eye, which is the symbol if you were in a mutant concentration camp.
Donc Bishop a été une partie de sa vie dans ces camps-là et il s'est échappé.
Is kind of the leader of our group.
Professeur Charles Xavier.
Bishop is the one who gets sent back in time to warn us that the Sentinels are coming. So we can move before the Sentinels attack us.
Ils sont dans une espèce de boucle où ils vivent des choses, ils les revivent, et c'est le seul à se souvenir de tout. Donc je pense que c'est pour ça qu'il a plus conscience du danger qui les entoure.
Ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to play a character like this. I always got the action figures and everything. As an adult, to go back to that and to really feel that out, you know, portray that very physically, it's a beautiful dream, and I'm having a lot of fun.
As Sunspot powers up, he turns into basically the surface of the sun. You'll see it come through his costume. You see the hair burn away and his eyes darken up.
You actually see the boiling texture, there's sort of the arcs of prominence, which are like the sort of little plasma field lines that basically erupt from the surface, and you get these sort of curved arcs that sort of link back down to the surface of the sun, which are really interesting.
send out huge sort of plasma bursts of radiation and heat.
There's so many different sounds that fire can make. It can sound big and roaring and that sort of thing, but with a character that's flying by, that doesn't really play.
Not only was he just a ball of fire, but he's also a ball of energy. We wanted to make sure that we felt like he had energy himself and that he projected it by way of flame and power.
He's a very tormented guy, passionate. He's like boiling up always inside. He has this temper. He has to be giving and protecting at the same time and exploding. And it's a roller coaster ride for this guy.
You never get to see my character Warpath before any of this. You see him right when he's in the middle of just getting slaughtered and trying to stay afloat. He's mainly the lookout. He warns the group because all his senses are heightened.
There's 12 carriers inbound, 10 miles.
Warpath, played by Boo Boo Stewart, is just a very agile fighter, a Native American.
He actually is an expert on rolling these knives. He has two on either side. They're attached to his back, and he kind of just pulls them out.
Run!
Blink, played by Chinese star Fan Bingbing, throws up portals that can travel you distances, so it's sort of how these characters have been escaping.
可以在敌人射击你的时候，把我的朋友跟同伴跟这些战士移到另外的一个安全的地方，所以他有这个非常强的超能力，可以移动所有的物体和人，在保护大家跟转移的时候，它有非常大的能量。
The portals become basically windows in space. There's nowhere to hide, there's no distortion, there's no effect. You're looking straight through a hole in space into another set or another background.
And then it'll all go whoop.
From a shooting point of view, it provided great challenges because you're shooting a shot and you're seeing a view of something with a portal in it. Hey! But we also need to shoot the view that's in the portal from whichever angle that it's meant to be at.
The portals were really fascinating. We always had the idea of ripping time and ripping space. The whole sense of it was sort of you hearing time and space rip open. Hey! We took a lot of elements to make the rips, including literal rips, but also there was some really interesting insect things I found in the library that we messed with and changed to give this sort of... There's also a little bit of a tonal element, the sense of it pushing time and space out. We wanted to get in the quality of that as well.
One of my favorite shots is Blink's death in the Moscow Sentinel sequence. You've got a Sentinel throwing Warpath. Blink appears through a portal from another set, so that was one. She throws a portal in front of the Sentinel. The exit appears in the back of the shot. Through the portal that the Sentinels come out of, you can see Blink and Warpath from behind. As the Sentinel turns to stab Blink, you're seeing the same Sentinel action from two perspectives in the same shot.
Blink!
These things get pretty...
Attitude.
Quicksilver is insanely fast.
Are you FBI? No, you're not cops. Hey, what's with this give to youngsters place?
He's kind of ahead of the curve in terms of everybody else. Well, he's fascinating.
He's a pain in the ass.
A little bit ahead of his time because he is so fast.
The only way they can get him to help them is to appeal to his desire for mischief.
So what's in it for me?
You get to break into the Pentagon.
And action. Another really tough, very unique sound that was fun to do was when they're breaking into the Pentagon cell where Eric is being held. We had to create that sense of vibration, a didgeridoo type sound that preceded the smashing glass.
He's a little wired. He's just in his own head a lot. He thinks very fast, he's very quick. Time basically stops for him when he's moving at his top speed.
Don't move!
That sort of super slow motion. It's a difficult one to do. It's something that we've seen many times before.
Nobody move! Hold it right there!
Quicksilver's Pentagon kitchen sequence.
As with many of our big action sequences, we pre-visualized everything to a very high level, so we could figure out exactly how we needed to tackle each shot individually.
1, 2,
It's a frozen time sequence, but he doesn't freeze time. He's actually just going incredibly fast. So we're freezing time on lots of elements. Utensils move, bits fly up. Magneto's all thrown into the air.
There are these huge lights. I think they take 40,000 watts each.
The set was so bright you'd have to wear sunglasses just to be on the set.
And they take pretty much the whole ceiling. So we gotta just figure out how to route wires through all this stuff so we can mow.
Visual feast in each of these shots. There's a million things we've added. All the rain has been put in, all the drops, muzzle flashes, all been either elements that have been put in there or full CG. We had Quicksilver on another stage at one point, doing all the high-speed stuff on his face and in his hair.
We have Evan, the actor, on a treadmill, do some of that close-up stuff there.
Got the slate running? Okay, start the wind, here we go.
They were blowing massive amounts of air at my face to get it that rippled look. A lot of air. It's like skydiving, you know? It's like you get that. It was fun.
Whoa, that was a good one.
My skin.
How much take have we got left? We're messing with Quicksilver leaving a wake.
As he ran around, he leaves a sort of a rain tunnel behind him, which was kind of cool as well.
Here's a sort of sphere of influence as he's moving through things. It was a challenge massaging that around a live action plate so it all integrates perfectly.
It's a short sequence, but a lot of really detailed work went into that to get that to look right.
The biggest challenge is to figure out where all these guys would have landed, where all the plates and accessories would have got scattered to, what's broken, what's not. It's a lot of thinking ahead.
Each character has their own arc and their own challenges that they're navigating. Bryan, in his relationship to these characters, to the world, takes us to a different place and reaches a lot further in this film.
He's very good at giving them a good inner life. So each one sort of came for its own reason, for its power, its look.
It's such a huge part of X-Men lore.
A Sentinel is an enormous robotic weapon that seeks out and destroys mutants.
There have been so many robot movies. The difficulty of doing it is being original, because it has to feel very familiar to the fans that have read the comic.
The thing that we have that I don't believe any other movie's ever done is shown two incarnations technologically of what a robot looks like in the past and what a robot could potentially look like in the future.
Bryan wanted to stay as true as we could to the Sentinels as we've known them through history. The first thing I did was I put together a book that showed what the Sentinel looked like in the first time you saw him and then each year. And in the comic form, they work beautifully, but a lot of them kind of look like 1950s wrestlers to us.
The Sentinels began as a program in the early 70s. They were machines, they were armed, 70s technology. They had the ability to target the mutant gene and isolate mutants.
Sentinels in 1973 are sort of bulky in the traditional idea of what a robot looks like.
In the 70s, there are these beautiful formed plastic shapes and wonderful colors. And since we wanted our Sentinels to be made completely out of plastic anyway, it seemed to be a really good way of showing the 70s. The Sentinels were purple in the original comics, and we wanted to very much stay with that. We finally came up with something that was really inspired by 70s product design. So it's all these beautiful vacuum-formed plastic shapes. Took a lot of influence from both cars in the 1970s to those wonderful TV sets that were round with the smoked glass panels on them.
It can fly as well. It's got the aeronautical capabilities of a Harrier jump jet was the idea, so they could sort of hover and fly.
You hear this big propulsion. And they say that they're not metallic, so you hear that their sounds are non-metal. The minigun that's on their arm is non-metal, and when they set down on the ground and you feel the weight of their feet, you feel it in your chest because we subbed them. They hit the subwoofer with them.
The 1973 Sentinel was built in LA. Every joint is posable and movable. He's actually supported from a post that comes off the back. You can pose the legs, pose the arms, move its upper body, you can twist it around, pose the head in any direction. All the options and the things that it does is quite amazing for the final product.
That was an interesting design challenge to try and build something convincing that was 18 foot tall, made of plastic and that could fly in the 1970s.
Having the 1973 Sentinel gives you a lot of spatial volume. When you have the crowd reacting, you can tell that they're looking at something physical. Everyone's focused on the same thing. You're also getting all the reflections off of all the plastic. People can stand in front of it or behind it, walk around it, they can interact with it. Things that you couldn't do if you just had a green stick there kind of thing and telling people, imagine what's here.
There's one scene where Beast jumps up and tries to disable a Sentinel by ripping its wires out of its neck. We shoot it practically. We've got a stunt guy, full Beast makeup, jumping onto a giant green robot shape that's on a gimbal, thrusting back and forth, and he's being thrown off by wires.
They were very primitive, relatively speaking. What Mystique offers in her DNA is that they can take her powers, take the essence of her power, and incorporate it into the Sentinels.
Both sides want to find Mystique. One side wants to protect her DNA to save the mutants, and the other side wants to take her DNA to destroy the mutants.
Her genes could hold the key to mutation itself. Imagine Sentinels that could transform, adapt to any target. Trask steals Mystique's genetic code, and he uses her genetics to basically make giant versions of her, of what she's capable of doing, because he sees her as this perfect species. And if he can somehow steal her abilities, the Sentinels will work.
Bryan was really specific about what he wanted the future Sentinels to do and how he wanted them to evolve and fight and be almost unbeatable.
Here they come.
The Sentinels of the future are an evolution from the Sentinels of the past. They have been imbued with biomechanical technology to transform and adapt to other mutants, to sort of take on their physicality, taking some of their powers and utilizing them against the mutant population. And there are thousands and thousands of them on the hunt for mutants at all times.
The evolution in digital technologies and some really terrific artistry on the part of our animators and our designers brought us to what I think is a sort of groundbreaking visual design.
The future Sentinels are very sleek, and because they're based on Mystique's DNA, we wanted to give them aspects like Mystique, like almost feminine, in the sense that they're very poised and balanced and very elegant like Mystique herself, but also just keeping their face sort of angular and dark. They're actually scary.
PC forged ahead with the Future Sentinel, taking the work from their art department into concept building the model and actually rigging every part of the CG Sentinel for its animation. They could sort of do sort of minor shape shifting to form sort of these sort of knives and sort of blades for stabbing or drilling and things like that.
When the Sentinels first appear, their arms come through the wall and they're very specific in their body movements and they're very threatening. So we wanted to have something that sounded like you couldn't tell if it was electricity or fire or what the heck it was.
There was a lot of sound design that went on with Craig Berkey. The Sentinels, in particular, were actually sort of a smorgasbord of interesting sounds.
The comment that we got from Bryan was that he wanted them to sound like the scariest thing he's ever heard.
I actually found some old riveted belts and then kind of used them together with shale rocks. And the shale rocks created this crackly sound with the riveting creating the ability to have the linear sound of click, 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 click. And together it really kind of created a cool Sentinel.
Run!
Go! There were great opportunities for sound. And if you're creating a great story and helping tell that story and enhance it in some way, that's where you want to be.
Each of our Sentinels had tens of thousands of scales over their body, so each time the Sentinels encounter a mutant, they can somewhat mimic the power of that mutant. You'll see the Sentinel that grabs Colossus, for instance, his scales all lock down and he becomes much more silver in color. So he's actually become super strong, and that allows him to defeat Colossus.
Their weaponry really came from a build-up of power from within them that could open up its whole head and fire this huge energy blast.
Also, the Sentinels can communicate these powers to each other. If one's having trouble with, say, Sunspot, the one that's fighting Bobby can communicate the ice power to that Sentinel that uses it to defeat Sunspot, and vice versa. You'll see that the Sentinel encased in ice suddenly turns red hot after the one that's killed Sunspot has sent the power down to him. So there's also all this dealing with just making sure the power's all transferred.
So rather than adapting to exactly what they're fighting, they swap.
Every time we come out of the box, we have to be different. I never want the audience to say, oh, you know, it's sort of like that last movie. I never, ever want that. So these Sentinels are the greatest foes they could ever have.
You want movies like this to have spectacle and feel like the action and the visuals are as or more exciting than anything in the genre. That's part of the fun and the challenge of making these movies.
The foundation is part science fiction, part X-Men. You want to swing for the fences. So the big visuals become the signature experiences of these films.
Wanted the Sentinels to be really cool and special. They were a remarkable achievement, and I think that's exciting for audiences.
Hell. God damn it.
Mask. Just take the mask off. It's all right, love. Yeah. You can take the mask off, love. It's fine. Thank you.
Eric, please.
That happens. Death, apparently. Emma. Banshee. All dead. Countless others. Can't remember their names for the life of me. There was a lot of them. Countless others made to play silly games.
Off, Eric. Yeah. His name's Derek. His name's Derek? What? I don't know why you've been calling him that. How long's he been called Derek? Since the beginning.
Luke, you're our only hope. Basically, I'm the only one who's going to remember any of this, right?
I think so.
Okay, now. See you later.
You missed your dose. Don't squirt on your face, dude. Don't waste it.
You talked to Eric. Sorry, go back. What is it? I talked to Eric. Eric, why are you getting closer to me? I'm obviously not acting.
I'm back at the house with my heavy helmet.
Oh, I'm sorry. And let me give you one tip. In 1973, I looked a lot like James McAvoy.
We're the Brotherhood of Brown Leather Mutants.
Where do I find you? Shopping for capes?
Well, just put on those glasses and see what you can see.
Could have been a lot worse.
And get some really cool 70s gear on and party on back there.
I'm going to veto that.
Right. Sorry.
Visual 17 hotel, take 2. Hey, Mark.